Welcome in, everyone. I'm so thrilled you're joining me today for what is going to be a truly captivating explainer. We're opening up a rather mysterious file, looking at a fascinating collection of source materials and speculative claims that completely challenge the standard narrative of our closest celestial neighbor. So, get comfortable and let's impartially investigate the alternative theories surrounding our moon.
So, what if humans aren't actually the only ones who've stepped foot on the moon? It's a pretty wild thought, right? But according to a growing body of alternative literature, when NASA went up there, they saw something entirely unexpected. Something that altered the entire course of space exploration, but was somehow never shared with the public.
The whole premise we're examining today rests on some very specific and honestly quite chilling claims. The text suggests that during our lunar explorations, NASA encountered unexplained lights and incredibly strange structures right there on the lunar surface. Furthermore, it alleges that these encounters resulted in missing data, highly classified recordings, and astronauts who returned to Earth profoundly changed by what they had witnessed. This is the very core of the so-called aliens on the moon mystery.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Part 1, the Apollo mystery.
Ever since 1969, we've pretty much all viewed the moon as just this lifeless rock, A harsh environment humanity conquered, planted a flag on, and eventually just left behind. But this alternative theory asks a really startling question. What if we didn't leave by choice? What if something up there essentially forced a human retreat?
To back up this idea of a forced retreat, alternative researchers point to some alleged, very strange occurrences during the Apollo missions. It's claimed that Neil Armstrong himself described seeing objects watching them from the edge of craters. Just imagine that for a second. Imagine the profound isolation of space, looking out at that dark lunar landscape and feeling deep down that you are being observed. The text goes on to claim that right after these alleged sightings, certain mission recordings were immediately classified. Meanwhile, others mysteriously disappeared from the archives altogether. Poof, gone. It really makes you wonder, why would relatively straightforward scientific moon exploration missions require such an intense level of secrecy and missing data?
Moving smoothly along to part 2, towers on the moon. Now, over the years, alternative researchers claim they've found some massive anomalies in satellite images of the moon. And we aren't just talking about weirdly shaped rocks here. We're talking alleged towering structures, massive domes, and these perfectly symmetrical formations that just don't look natural. For proponents of this theory, these are viewed as potential evidence of an ancient or maybe even current alien civilization operating right in our cosmic backyard.
Now, what's really interesting is how the mystery expands in Part 3, the Phobos connection.
The source material highlights some truly fascinating statements from another legendary astronaut, Buzz Aldrin. He once spoke publicly about a mysterious object that seemed to literally be following the Apollo 11 spacecraft during its journey. But the text connects this to a much later comment Aldrin made regarding strange, completely unexplained structures located on Mars's tiny moon, Phobos.
According to the text, whenever these kinds of statements were made, official channels swiftly downplayed or just dismissed them. So, is this all just a string of innocent misinterpretations and coincidences? Or are we looking at a much larger pattern of controlled silence, a very intentional suppression of evidence regarding extraterrestrial structures in our solar system?
Which brings us to Part 4, why did we stop? Think about it. We went to the moon multiple times in a really short span, and then we just stopped. Cold turkey. No permanent bases were built, and there were absolutely no follow-up manned missions for decades. The official reason always cites severe budget cuts and a shift in national priorities. But the alternate theory? It argues the real reason is much darker. Humanity was explicitly warned away. It suggests we were told not to come back, because the moon is already occupied and functioning as a monitored base.
And that leads us perfectly into Part 5, secret space programs.
The text references several modern whistleblowers who've stepped out of the shadows with some truly extraordinary allegations. They claim that highly classified, totally secret space programs are operating right now, far beyond the limits of public knowledge or congressional oversight. Furthermore, these whistleblowers allege that the moon is actively being monitored, not just explored by little rovers, but monitored, and that humans are definitively not alone up there. And this brilliantly illustrates how all these isolated claims just kind of weave together into one continuous narrative.
It starts way back in 1969 with the Apollo 11 anomalies, moves right through the post-Apollo era with Aldrin's comments about Phobos, stretches across the decades-long sudden halt of lunar missions, and culminates in the modern day with these explosive whistleblower claims. The text suggests an unbroken, deeply hidden narrative of secrecy. But if we entertain this premise for just a second, if we assume the source material is right and there actually are extraterrestrial entities on the moon, it forces us to ask, why haven't they contacted us? Are they simply observing human development from a safe, comfortable distance? Are they protecting something hidden deep within the moon? Or are they just waiting for the exact right moment in our technological evolution? This all builds to the ultimate, total, paradigm-shifting premise of our source material. We might need to fundamentally rethink what the moon actually is. What if it isn't merely a natural, lifeless satellite caught in our gravity? What if it really is a base? And perhaps humanity was never actually meant to know the truth about our beautiful, mysterious neighbor in the sky. Which brings us to the final, incredibly unsettling thought presented by our source text today. If the moon is indeed an occupied outpost, looking down on Earth night after night, the real question we should be asking ourselves isn't just about what happened in 1969. The real question is, are they watching us? Right now? Thank you so much for exploring this deeply fascinating alternative theory with me today. Stay curious.